lots of challenges growing up, and then all of a sudden, when I was actually away from all of the stuff that I was familiar with, and people that were familiar with me, it was nice to be able to be in a setting where I was actually excelling and achieving things anonymously. You know, there was things that were happening that all of a sudden I was shining in a way, but not, you know, none of my people back in where I was from knew anything about it, but I was doing really well.
The discipline and resolve in doing any difficult endeavor is so important for a young man, you know, and it's one of the sort of themes we've brought up on this podcast many times, is that there's no coming of age rituals in our culture anymore. And there's I always thought they were retarded when I was young. Like, you know, what are these fucking idiots hanging themselves by their tits and, you know, or, you know, putting their hands in bullet ant, you know, bins. Like, what the fuck is wrong with these people? Why would they, like, I'm 18, I'm a man, done. No, really. You really need to go through something. You need to have, that's why so many cultures have either psychedelic experiences that, you know, young people go through, or with, we talked about this yesterday, ordeal poisons, where it's not a psychedelic because there's none in their area, so they take something that almost kills them, and then when it's over, they're just so happy to be healthy again and alive that they sort of realize they've gone through a tunnel, they've made it through a passage, they've reached an actual new level. And you know, we're missing that, man. We get out of fucking high school and then we're just lost. We're panicking, completely terrified we're going to starve to death, just clinging on to the first job or the first opportunity for some sort of security that we can. You know, the only good thing that I could ever think about having some sort of a mandatory military experience for most United States citizens is twofold. One, so people can understand what the fuck the military is really all about, instead of this nonsense, rah-rah, chicken hawk bullshit where people support this idea of sending our fucking trained killers to these places where we don't know anybody and fucking them up in the name of justice or whatever the fuck it is. We would get a better idea of what that is, and it would be harder to pull the wool over people's eyes. Because it's so easy for all these people that will have nothing to do with shooting anybody ever to say, we support the troops and support, you're our heroes and you're the reason why we can be free, and nonsensical statements that mean the reason why that shit flies is because we got a nice blanket, this blanket of security, the USA, whatever the fuck it is, throw it over your head. You don't really have to think about the actual horrors of military. If we forced people to join, and I'm not saying we should, but the only benefit that we would get out of that is that people would kind of get an idea of what reality really is.
Yeah, I think it's there is that fine line. There's no way to really kind of, you know, to really be able to direct that experience. It really is an individual thing. There's going to be people that figure out a way to make that work for them in terms of being lazy. I got out of shape in the Army when I went in.
Really?
You know, it's just because back when I went
you hustled the system.
When I went in, they wanted people in, so they weren't really, you know, pushing people too hard, and it was in a period of time when we didn't have a lot of obvious conflict going on, so it seemed like everything had sorted itself out, and why am I going to the military other than just getting a college fund out of it and then fucking off? But, you know, so they were kind of lowered the standards a little bit to kind of get more people in. I think that was a mistake, but
I came real close to joining in '85 when I got out of high school. They had an Army Taekwondo team. They would you would get a shitty, easy desk job, but they would pay you to train, and they'd give you.
They told you they were going to pay you to train. See what they did? They did the bait and switch with me too. Like, oh, you want to be a map maker? Oh, that's a great, because you're an artist. Awesome. Let's bring you on down. Let's sign up and get you there. Then you get on the bus and you drive all the way to Detroit, and they get you there and they go, oh yeah, that one's full. That's full. But you know what you can do? You can run out and catch bullets.
Yeah, I had
You're fucked.
A dude that competed on the national team, this guy Bobby Clayton, who was out of the U.S. Army team. He was the one who was getting me to think about doing it. He always freaked me out because he was really religious. And when I was 18, I was such a godless loser that really religious people scared me. Like, the one thing I was scared of competing against was religious people. Like, when I wasn't scared, black people at first, until I beat my first black guy. And then it was religious people, because I would see them sitting down, like, reading the Bible before they'd fight, and I'd be like, motherfucker. this dude's got God on his side. Like, he's got God on his side. I don't even fucking know what's in the Bible. I went to Catholic school for 1 year. All I could think of was this fucking guy's going to have Jesus on his side. He's going to kick my ass. But this Bobby Clayton guy, every time he would fight, he would sit down and read the Bible before he would go out there. And he was on the U.S. Army team. Came real close to following that dude's footsteps. He was a couple steps ahead of me in the tournament scene, and I was looked up to him. So I was like, wow, maybe that's the move, maybe the Army. And I look back on it now, and the weird feeling of indecision that I had when I got out of high school makes me so sympathetic, and that's why whenever anybody tries to criticize the actual people that are over there, the actual troops, I'm like, man, that is. Well, they're the one who's actually pulling the trigger. They're the one, like, man, you don't even know what kind of momentum is behind being a part of a machine like that, and being a 20-year-old man or an 18-year-old man,
right.
and and wanting the respect and admiration of your peers, and your fucking your CO is telling you, whatever the guy is, the head guy is telling you that they'll give you an extra leave if you kill a guy with a knife. Have you ever seen those guys describing this? There was his chief officer, or whoever the fuck it was, the head guy, told them they'd give him 4 days leave, they'd kill a guy with a knife. So they had an extra incentive to kill a guy with a knife. And you're like, wow. America, fuck yeah. Yeah, fuck yeah, freedom.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah, I think, everybody in some way, I think you're right about trying to figure out a way that have some more perspective on, just putting people in the situation where they have to kind of go through that for themselves and kind of discover your inner warrior, like that. That's just that kind of becoming a person, male or female, just trying to figure out what that next step for you is separating from the nest and becoming your own person. We can talk around it all you want, but at the end of the day, there are monsters in the world. Most of them are us, and that's what comes. We have the capacity for amazing, wonderful things. We have the capacity for some horrendous, awful things as well. And I think part of that, having that warrior awakened in you, is more about understanding the monster in you and understanding how to keep that at bay and understand how to keep that in check, so that making it a global perspective. And I am in no way am I a hippie or delusional about, like, we're all just going to have world peace someday. It's just not the case. We're going to be struggling with our inner monster forever, and there are monsters that are just out more in areas, and the reality is we have to keep that in check.
Well, we lack any sort of a logical use guide for being a human. We essentially go on the experiences of people before us, and occasionally we get wisdom, like that poem that you read, or that excerpt that you read, which is genius and brilliant, from a man who lived 200 years ago. Yeah. But, more than likely, you get a fucking moron for a dad who pumps bullshit into your head until you're 18, and then you leave, and you're like, these fucking niggers are trying to take our jobs. And like, poor fucking kid. He's in, you were like,
here's a shovel. Here's a job for you. Oh, yeah. You're quitting?
Morons are allowed to raise morons, and you're allowed to homeschool them, too. You're allowed to sit them down and teach them the same idiotic nonsense that you learned, and keep the same pattern of fear and ignorance going. It's very strange. And there's no way to cure that either. I mean, who is any man to tell any other man, until we have some really incredibly sophisticated ways of measuring competence that are just rock solid, and like a litmus lick. I used to do a joke in my act about, if you could find out if you're an idiot as easy as you could find out if you're pregnant. You just go and lick something and look at it and go, I'm a fucking idiot. There's no way, this is broken. You'd throw it away. There'd be a pile of idiot detectors up to the fucking moon, and you'd be like, bullshit, and fucking throw it down and grab another one. Until that happens, how do you say a man can't have a baby? How do you say a guy, can't raise a family and teach it his own values? You can't.
Well, I think there's, not that I want to get all 1984, but I think in terms of, like, say, for example, health benefits, if you go in to get some kind of, something for your cold, or you're just basically sick, now, your arm got chopped off. Okay, we understand that, but, like, as far as just general health, if for some reason You go in for that kind of general health stuff, and I think they should be able to run your credit card statement to see if you've been to McDonald's lately. If you've been to McDonald's, if you've been drinking Coca-Colas or eating the candies or hitting the fast food, it's like, no, you don't get anything.
Yeah.
I've had this idea for a long time, is that the way to strengthen America is really to make less losers. So anytime there's any sort of a situation like that, there should be some resources dedicated to pulling people out of that in a really enthusiastic way. The same way there's resources dedicated to rebuilding Iraq after we blow it up. I mean, there should be a way to let people know the infrastructure of America needs to be rebuilt too. The infrastructure of humanity, the infrastructure in the age of information, with all the stuff that we know about what's important about being a human being. We should invest some resources into that and developing human beings in that way. And if you're going to provide them with free health care, you should also provide them with some sort of an education and some sort of actually acceptable form where they're going to really absorb it of what the fuck you're doing to your body, stupid, and taxpayers shouldn't be paying for this. And we might have to put you in a state where everybody eats Big Macs. We might have to force you into some place. You're gonna have to move to South Dakota because that's the Big Mac state. You want to keep eating Big Macs?
All right.
Well, you can still be on the government nipple.
I was writing a story at one point that was kind of like that, where it was some detective, and he starts realizing that there's some people that keep disappearing, and it's kind of a missing persons case, and it kind of turns into like a lot of missing people. And he starts kind of looking over, he kind of put the board up, they got their faces up there, and realize all these people are really large. And then all of a sudden it turns into this total sci-fi thing where it's like actually the aliens have kind of infiltrated the government. They've engineered this, the corn products, all the syrup, and they're basically the government's for whatever technology we'll take this and we'll feed our people this, and the aliens are harvesting the fat people to put in their rocket ships to sail around.
Power their rocket ships like whale oil.
We're fossil fuel. They're just kind of harvesting.
Why not?
The large people.
We had this. I said this, Rob Wolf yesterday, the author of the Paleo Solution. Brilliant guy. But when he was talking about government subsidies and corn, and the reason why there's so much corn out there and corn syrup, and it's used in so many different things, and it's so terrible for you, and it's not even economically feasible. He's like, the government is actually paying these people to grow this shit because there's not a lot of profit in growing it. Somehow or another, some hustle has been put into place, and the direct result of it is a billion fat fucks. And it's
harvest.
Yeah, it's amazing. They're
fuel.
coming. They're going to suck us up. They're going to put us in a fucking engine.
Yeah, the twist would be on the all of a sudden there's a very large family and they're not being harvested. What's going on? It's well, it's just they're genetically that's their genetics. They haven't been fed the corn syrup, so they're just being passed over. So it has nothing to do with actual large people. It has to do with people that are specifically gorging on the corn syrup.
Well, if we really do encounter alien life, and that alien life actually eats biological matter, we're going to be fucked.
Yeah.
There are aliens, and they are 1 million years more advanced than us. They're going to eat the shit out of our fat
we're like
asses.
foie gras for them.
Yeah.
We've been stuffing ourselves with all this fast food and corn and stuff.
We're grain-fed cattle. Cattle aren't supposed to eat grain. Neither are people. That's how they finish them on that shit. That's how they get them all nice and fat and juicy.
Finish him.
Let's go back to when the power went out, man. We were talking about Hicks.
Yeah.
You guys put Hicks on you thanked him on a CD because you got a hold of one of his cassettes and you enjoyed it. But you guys never actually toured together. But you came close to it.
We planned on it. It was basically a plan we were kind of setting into motion in mid '93. And talking, and that's when he came down, and that was kind of part of why he was coming down. We're trying to figure out what we were going to do.
Comedians and rock musicians like that, it's a weird combination. Bobcat Goldthwait did a lot of work with Nirvana. He opened up for them. We had him in here, and he told some hilarious stories about them just fucking hucking shit at him, screaming at him, and fucking murder in their eyes.
Yeah.
Get off the fucking stage. Meanwhile, he's friends with them, and they want him to go out there. It's
I actually approached David Cross a couple years ago. Hey man, we're going to do another show. He's no.
I would say no too.
No.
I wouldn't want to. Yeah, you don't want to eat dick in front of a rock crowd.
Yeah.
It's not the
being
right.
pelted with coins and stuff. It was all.
It's a weird combination. It's like you're not providing them what they're there to see. You've got to turn. I mean, it might work.
For one tour, we had Neil Hamburger opened up for us.
Really?
So, that's awesome.
So that's just, and then in the middle of our set, he would come out and interrupt and go, "I forgot a joke," and then he'd just do You know, just bum the audience out for a minute and then wander off. And
Me, I was a young comedian living in Boston, and I was working at the Comedy Connection. I had been doing it probably about a year. It's probably like 1989.
where'd you live in Boston?
I live in Newton.
Okay, I live in Davis Square.
Oh, did you really? Oh,
Yeah.
cool. Boston's a great place to grow up, but a terrible place to die.
And I felt like I was dying there.
Yeah, it's look, the people are cool, they're smart, it's interesting, it's cool, it's a real town, but it's too fucking cold. It's just too fucking cold.
Yeah.
Now, I like people that are kind, and I think that even if the people on the left are doing it the wrong way, and even if they're crazy and self-righteous and pretentious, I think the idea behind it is they're trying to be as kind to as many groups of people, you know, and offer a commensurate environment for as many groups of people as possible. So I support that, even though I think a lot of what they think is nonsense and it doesn't go along with human nature and behavior. And you know, I want to alpha them sometimes and grab their neck and shake them like a fucking child. And
Yeah.
Get it together, bitch.
Yeah.
Do some squats. Have a fucking steak. You're on planet Earth.
Rub bacon on your nose.
Get up, bitch. Get up. Have a fucking shot of whiskey and let's do this. Boston is just. Boston is liberal in the same way too, but just angry.
Oh yeah,
Fight.
there's definitely some Irish anger going on there.
And ugly
I felt
women.
that.
Cold.
Yeah, I got really in trouble once. I toured there, and like it was like one of my first times back in Boston. It's like back in Boston, dry cunt capital of the world. Like, it was like crickets. Like no, like as many fans as we had in the audience, they were like, yeah, we're done now.
Dry cunt capital of the world. Oh, it's hard to find a good one in Boston. And when you find a good one, you cling to them like a cork in the ocean. Please keep me afloat. Please. I saw Hicks at the Comedy Connection, and I saw him because he was on the Rodney Dangerfield special. And I was a aspiring comedian, so I went to see everybody who was on the Rodney Dangerfield special when they came through town. You know, and Boston was one of those pit stops. It was like Chicago, Boston. You know, there was places where people would come through, and you know, you would guarantee that they would be in your town eventually. And Hicks went up. He went up at the Comedy Connection. Or the first time I actually saw him was at Nick's Comedy Stop. And he went up after this guy was an incredible hack. The guy was like cop, donut jokes, cartoons, smoking pot, and like all the most hackneyed, obvious premises. And he was killing. Audience was filled with idiots. Nobody knew who Hicks was. Me and maybe 50 other comedians in the back of the room. Out of 300 people who were in the audience, the place is packed. By 20 minutes into the show, half the people have left. You know, I mean, literally cleared out at least 50%. By the end of it, it was maybe 100 people left. And it was 50 audience members and 50 comedians. And he didn't give a fuck. He never, if one joke would go wrong for me, I would go into a tailspin, I would panic, I would rush my jokes, I would say fuck too much, I would not have any confidence. He's in the middle of this bit about how Satan fucks John Davidson, who, if you don't remember, John Davidson was the host of That's Incredible. It was like the internet before there was the internet. So it's a demon with his thorny cock is fucking John Davidson in the ass, and John Davidson swells up in the off season because he's pregnant with Lucifer's baby, and he shits out Oprah Winfrey or Geraldo Rivera, depending on where Hicks was at. And so Hicks is standing on stage shitting. So he's pausing, going, I mean, it's fucking minutes, man. Minutes of just straining, and people are just getting up and leaving. And he looks up in the middle and goes, yeah, this usually clears a room. And we're just crying, laughing, and I got to see him bomb horribly, but yet still kill for 50 to 100 people, and then I got to see him, you know, kill for the whole crowd. But what an interesting guy. It's like he was doing something that nobody else was doing. I mean, he was injecting Noam Chomsky and philosophy and Terence McKenna, and it was like whoa, like what? Yeah, I didn't even like when I first saw Kinnison was the first time I ever thought I could do comedy. I was like, you know, I saw these guys rolling up their sleeves talking about, did you ever notice? And it's like, well, I kind of could do that. I guess I kind of could do that if I had to do that. But then I saw Kinnison and you know, fucking screaming, I was married for 2 fucking years! And he was angry, and it was funny, and I was laughing. I was like, maybe there's a comedy for me. Maybe I can find my comedy.
Right.
And then when I saw Hicks, I was like, oh, this guy just flipped the whole fucking thing on its head. Like,
Yeah.
now it's you know, it's about formulating a philosophy on life, and that there is a possibility outside of the direction that we're going in, and it is possible for the human beings and the human civilization to rise up and be about love and be about understanding and be about intellectual curiosity and to be free of judgment. I was like, this guy's a fucking comedian? Like, this is the craziest shit I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like his jokes were an afterthought to inject his philosophy into the audience.
I think partly, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so what a...
But I've loved, I kind of like, I spent a little time in that little comedy world for a while. It was always very inspiring to me to watch comedians like him basically just stick to their guns and finish their act without getting that nervous sweat. I mean, it was always inspiring to see that. And it's always my favorite comedy clubs to go to are the ones that, you know, you end up, if you're sitting out front of the Man's Chinese, they give you tickets to go to this free comedy club. Go then, because if it's a good comedian on, you can like take bets to see how quickly the room's going to clear, especially if, you know. And we had, I remember one time he had, Andy Kindler did a whole thing where he brought everybody he knew down there to kind of have like a little side seats with all the comedians that he had up his sleeve, and they did a whole like debunking comedy, like a hack class. And they had everybody come up and just do like the hack thing in front of this audience, and all these people that just kind of won tickets from, you know, got tickets at the Man's Chinese, and they're just, I don't understand, like, that's funny. Why is that hack? That's funny. Like, and then, you know, that whole thing went on for like an hour, you know, hour and a half. And it was just, I'm in the back of the room just peeing myself watching them go through this. And then some dude gets up after them as their act and does everything that they just went through, and the audience is like, "Bah, that's so funny. Can I have another drink?" Like, and then David Cross gets up and then just clears the room. It was awesome. He's like, opening line just, you know, I saw Schindler's List the other day, and Schindler's List, finally saw it. It's not that funny. This whole table of people just get up and out the door. Like, and it just, every joke that he said, it was like we're watching, like, he just set off a bomb there, he just set off a bomb there, cleared the room.
David
awesome.
Cross is rarely credited, but in my opinion, watching it all happen, he's the originator of the idea of alternative comedy. Because I saw him doing alternative comedy in 1988. He was
in Boston, right?
Yeah, Catch in Cambridge. He would go up and he would do. I remember one time he was doing this exercise video where it would teach you how to stretch. So he would play the exercise video and he stretches like, I really do feel a stretch. And he was like doing this like long, and people were like nervously giggling and not sure where it was going, and it never went anywhere. It never went anywhere, but it was amusing. You know, I felt he was like a better version of what Andy Kaufman was doing, because Andy Kaufman would get up in front of like colleges and like read The Great Gatsby, and I was like, well, that's kind of fucked. It's not really funny at all. Like, this is kind of crazy. Like,
It is now.
Yeah, it is now. Yeah, it's like a delayed reaction.
As long as you don't have to
joke.
like witness it, it's great.
Long-term absorption. Yeah, but Cross he was funny while he was doing it. It was weird. He was just so silly. It was actually funny while he was doing it. Do you like comedy? I like music because I'm completely unmusical. I don't have any skill. I don't have any talent. I don't understand it. I see those bars that might as well be Tibetan, you know, Sanskrit. I don't know what it is. So when I see someone perform music, when I'm in awe. It's like, to me, it's a beautiful, wonderful experience. Do you feel the same way about comedy because you don't do comedy? Do you watch comedy and you just get a free sense of enjoyment that you might not get from watching something that you actually
I generally
do?
enjoy more scripted, like a film comedy. When I see a group of guys who have figured out, not a formula, but there's a rhythm to their comedy, and they've actually created a character behind, you know, that actor brings something to the table that you want to look at, and then their timing in this scenario where it's clearly they're just play acting. It's like, hey, we're just playing dress up pretend. And you still laugh because the writing's solid, but what they bring to the table with the writing is solid. So, like, you know, when you're seeing things like almost any Will Ferrell film. It's
Step
like
Brothers.
those guys just, yeah. And John C. Reilly is like just a master at
Yeah.
just bringing his thing to the table
Yeah.
and then making your script come alive. It's just a great, that to me is like, and I look at that and I go, how the fuck did you do that? I have no idea how they did that, and I have no idea how to be funny. Just so I'm watching them just like nail these things out of the park. Like, you could put all that script on the paper and show it to me, and I would just go, where do I start? Like, how is this funny?
One of my favorite all-time comedians is Mitch Hedberg. And one of the reasons why Mitch is one of my favorites is because none of his stuff was funny on paper. It didn't make any sense. Like, you would see, like, he goes, somebody asked me, do I want a frozen banana? I said no, but I want a regular banana later, so yes.
Now, if you saw that on paper, you'd be
He's
like,
like, what the
why is that
fuck?
funny?
What the fuck is that? I might have butchered his joke. I don't think
that's
I
pretty
did.
close.
I think it was pretty close. But I love that. I love that he redefined comedy in a certain way, too, because he made some... First of all, the guy was a heroin addict, and he had only clean comedy. I mean, his stuff was squeaky clean. Meanwhile, he was gangrene in his leg because he was fucking shooting into the same vein too many times. It was really a strange guy, and his material was all so odd. And if you loved Mitch Hedberg, it was awesome. But like, Mitch Hedberg would go on after these guys that would like sing and dance and do song parodies, and they would close with a rap, and he would eat dick. He would eat dick so bad that the club owner would try to switch him with the middle act and say, listen, the middle act's been doing stronger. We're going to have him close. We're going to give him your money. And then his manager would call, and there would be like a big problem. And it wasn't necessarily that he was not a funny comic. It was like completely the wrong setup for his type
Right.
of comedy. Whereas
Right.
it's a delicate environment where you could take a guy like Kinison. It didn't matter who went on before him. When he stormed that
He's
stage,
loud.
ow, ow, ow!
Yeah.
You're like, well, this fucking room has changed. The environment has changed. Hedberg would get up there with sunglasses on, It was like,
And it just goes, barrel.
never play tennis against a wall. They're relentless. And you would just start giggling, and it would be a slow build. And he was one of the rare guys that would have non sequiturs. Everything was being non sequitur. Every single bit.
I'm sorry, what is that drawing on the wall?
That's a vagina. That's
yeah.
what a child would draw, like in high school, maybe. Who drew that?
That's Brennan Walsh's drawing of what he thinks Barbie looks like.
And it's right next to Pam Anderson.
Right
ladies and
next to
gentlemen.
Pam Anderson.
They're big.
we had an artist on
Fake.
one of our other
Yeah,
podcasts
I'm
that
sorry,
drew
I
Barbie.
didn't mean to interrupt you, but it kept screaming at me from
This
the-
whole place is a giant distraction. Look, there's a flashlight right here, our former sponsor. There's fucking cats all over the table.
Super Mario Brothers behind you playing.
Yeah, there's a mannequin tit, stormtrooper helmet. Ron Paul's in here somewhere. Where's Ron Paul?
Ron Paul's over there somewhere.
Yeah, it's right behind
She's
him.
leaving.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a weird little setup we have here. What is with that fucking painting, man? That's what I've been wanting to ask you. Is that yours?
Yeah.
Burn that thing. That thing.
If you look far away, if you look at it far away, it looks like a naked girl.
Yeah.
And
Look
then
at it close up. It
it's
looks like
the box.
shit.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it.
Listen, I only said that for humor. I don't really mean that. I was a huge fan of Dennis Leary for about 6 months until I saw Hicks.
Right.
And then I went, what the fuck? This guy's doing the same jokes.
Right. But and no disrespect to Bill, but I think, as you've probably seen mostly in that comedy world, the beauty of Hicks was that was his world. He was staying in that world. This is his whole purpose, is to do this thing.
Right.
Most people during that period of time had their it's like they almost had their eye on the Johnny Carson position.
Oh,
It's like,
yeah.
okay, do this, and then you do this, and you get this show, and then you do this thing, and you get to be Johnny Carson someday. Kind of like the subject of Shakes the Clown, and like watching everybody try to be
Yeah.
Binky's trying to get that position, and Shakes and all that, and mimes, but I feel like Larry was, whatever you want to lay on him as far as biting that style, it doesn't matter, because as it went on, what he ended up doing with all of that, he ended up making his own thing. So even though kind of maybe clearly just
Clearly.
carbon copied that.
Yeah.
But in his defense, I feel like back then it was war. You're trying to make your way, and I think.
I don't give that.
Yeah.
I don't give him that. It wasn't really. He could have come up with his own shit.
Yeah, but I think I had the same problem with him for many years, but like just
You let it go.
I let it go because he's fucking
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
Some of those watching the Rescue Me, there's some tasty bits in that. And his the movie he did, where he was a burglar and he's stuck in this house.
John Lovitz and him. Is that what it was?
No. Oh man.
He could eat shit in Spider-Man, though. Did you know
eat
he was in Spider-Man?
Did he suck in Spider-Man? Is that what you're saying?
He's just stupid. Why is he in that movie?
I don't know. Someone needs a dad.
It's like you couldn't just get anybody else to play.
I'm not a fan. When I find out you're full of shit, I'm sorry. I can appreciate that he does well at some things, but until he comes clean about being full of shit in the first place, he can go fuck himself. Three guys where I know where they were when they died. Rich Jenny, because it was just so crazy that he committed suicide, and Kinnison, because he was my first influence, and then Hicks. I was at this club in Connecticut, Hartford, Connecticut, and me and this other comic were in the green room, and this girl came in and goes, "Bill Hicks just died." And we're like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, he died. It was like overnight.
Yeah.
And I was in a hotel in Detroit. We were flying to Europe the next morning, and I woke up in the middle of the night, like just bolt upright. At whatever time that was, I can't remember what the time was, but like I basically was awake. And then we got up the next morning, and got a message from Duncan, his manager, and it was like, "Bill passed last night," and the time that was quoted that he passed was when I woke up in bed.
Whoa.
And it was pretty creepy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Your stuff.
He actually went via wherever he was through Detroit to tap me on his way. I was like, "Dude, I'm sorry to make you go to Detroit."
It's probably a really quick trip when you're in hyperspace. It's probably right next door.
Yeah.
It's probably reaching over and pressing
And I
a
found
button.
out about his problem because I had an awful nightmare. And I was at one of those kind of motels where you can pull your car right up to the outside, and it's kind of like the 2 stories, and you kind of walk through the breezeway between the thingies, and there was like 100 people there, and everybody's just bawling their eyes out, and Bill wasn't there, and I was like, "What the fuck is this dream about?" So I called his manager the next day, and I'm like, "I had this fucked up dream about Bill," and he goes, "Yeah, I can't really talk about it." And because nobody knew yet that he had pancreatic cancer. I had this fucked up dream, and I called his manager and went, I had this weird dream about Bill. What's up? And he's like, "Yeah, I can't really talk about it."
Weird.
Do you believe? I mean, there's no way that was coincidental.
No,
Dude.
no way. No way.
What is that? What's going on there?
Yeah.
Is there a
know.
dimension that is like
I don't know.
a next door neighbor that you can tap into?
I have no idea.
Dianetics.
Diuretics.
What the fuck is that?
Yeah, I don't know, but it was pretty, and I had a couple moments like that with him over that time. That's what I'm saying, like when he died, like I was just, yeah, of course I woke up in the middle of the night.
I've never had anything like that happen to me, but I absolutely believe it's possible.
Yeah. It was a weird time.
They say the most provable form of any sort of psychic phenomenon is the ability to know when someone's looking at you. They said that statistically you can prove, you can have people stand and have their back facing a group of people, and they can statistically tell with, a certain amount of uncertainty and guesswork, but you could show on a graph that people can tell when people are looking at them.
Mm.
If that is possible,
If that's valid, then these
yeah.
other things are definitely on some level valid because it's energy.
Have you ever heard of the work of Rupert Sheldrake? He's this guy who believes in the morphogenetic field, and he's done like research showing that dogs can tell when their owners are coming home. And he believes there's some sort of a frequency that we're all tuning into, that all of our consciousness is connected to some type of grid, and you can recognize when that's in motion. And you can recognize things, events, things that are happening, and it's just a matter of us being sensitive enough to tune it in. And that's. I think that's really one of the weirdest things about being a human being.
Is he doing like?
I don't know.
Is he all right?
No, he's not doing that. I don't think he is. He might be. I doubt it. If he does, he'll be okay. He's just a mess. He's from Ohio. You know it is. I rescued him from Columbus. I I want to believe that we're slowly but surely moving from the phase of, grunts to language to written language to internet to psychic ability to communication. I mean, I want to think that it's, but there's so much room for fuckery. There's so much room for fake psychics. But,
Oh yeah.
So when I hear a story like yours, I was like, aha, I can bank on
Yeah,
that.
I mean,
one.
I have
put
no
that one
reason.
in the
I have no
vault.
reason to lie about that. It's
Yeah.
not like it's gonna make or break my career,
Yeah.
So
Well, it does sound cool.
it sounds pretty cool.
It's pretty bitchy to bring up at a party, especially if you're in front of a fire.
Touch me.
Yeah, but everybody wants to fucking claim psychic. Everybody wants to claim it. It's so hard to trust people.
Oh
when
no,
it
I don't
comes to
think
that shit.
that's. And I think the problem with all of that is that we're not probably on some universal level. We're not really allowed to completely be able to tap in and rely on it. Although I do firmly believe that each one of us has to kind of really listen to the intuitive side of ourselves to kind of just
Yes.
follow your heart and know what path you're supposed to choose, because we all kind of have a role to play, I think.
Yes.
And you kind of have to find that happy medium between making yourself happy and making sure you're fulfilled, but also kind of doing your part, make everything work.
The intuitive is such an interesting point, because your intuition depends on your respect for your consciousness. It depends on your respect for your honesty about your own actions and your own thoughts and your own ideas. And I find that when I am the most at peace with my own actions, then I am a much better in tune with other people. And I've met people that were completely full of shit. I'm like, how does this guy not know that he's full of shit? Not know that no one's going to buy this? I'll tell you how, because he's lying to himself. Because he's lying
And
constantly.
negative, in a way, positive reinforcement for his negative actions. If he
Yeah.
keeps winning,
Yes. Even if
being
he's not,
negative,
yeah.
that's just going to reinforce that action and reinforce that behavior.
When I'm most honest with myself is when I get the most intuitive reads off of people. I had one friend, my friend Brian Callen, and he was like the worst guy for being involved with friends that would turn out to be crazy and idiots and thieves and nuts, and the worst connections with girls, and I was like a big brother to him.
You gonna be
I was
all right?
always-
You okay?
Fine.
You
He's
fine?
worried about you doing coke.
Me?
Yeah. Are you doing coke? What's in your hand? Oh,
Bud Light.
No.
Show sold out tonight.
Oh, it is? Powerful.
I was always playing around with a story where the only way to time travel would be to somehow connect into the base of your DNA, and there's actually a time code in the DNA, and you have to reset it so that all of a sudden you just end up in this other time zone, but then your software would be compatible. So this whole script fell apart just before my eyes.
Well, yeah, imagine if you did decide you were going to go into another dimension, and you go into the other dimension, and you would just be engulfed in complete madness because you don't have the tools to deal with that new...
Right.
Fuck. That's like that...
Like you go to hit enter, and you're like, oh, I forgot a zero, and you're like,
Oh, just a fucking constant kaleidoscope till the end of time.
yeah.
It's like that movie or the Twilight Zone episode when was it Burgess Meredith?
Mm-hmm.
It was all he wanted to do was read and just leave me alone. And he's inside of a library, and a nuclear explosion happens, and everyone's dead. But he's surrounded by all these books, and then he breaks his glasses. He's like, oh fuck! Just forever in this downward spiral of inability to perceive his environment.
I'm worried about him.
Nah, he's all right.
He's,
I was worried about him for the first 5 years I knew
Very
him, but
worried
then
about
we got into it.
worried about me?
We got into a groove.
I
and
think he
kinda
might have a
understand
problem with
him.
alcohol.
No, he knows exactly what he's doing.
It's the only way to kill the hangover.
He does start when he starts slurring. You're gonna get nervous, but he's okay.
Is he looking at me again?
Yeah, he's always looking at you, man. He'll be up there. He's a comedian. He's got some funny jokes.
He's looking at me again.
Yeah.
You should come tonight.
I'm working.
Oh.
Yeah, you should let people invite themselves. That way you don't get rejected.
Oh, and that's basically nobody's business. So it's like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? I asked you to fucking put the camera away, dude.
Maybe if you told them, hey, I'll
being
go into
nice.
a fucking seizure. Meanwhile, they get right up in your face. Try to make
Yeah,
you
because then you got
seizure.
the asshole who's still into Nine Inch Nails from '92, and he's going to do the Flash thing because he hates me, and he hates
you.
you for leaving them.
It's you, buddy.
It's abandonment
He
issues.
pointed at you when he said that.
Do you know Trent? Do you work with him a lot ever? Or?
We've met, several times, probably more than several, but I haven't talked to him for ages.
He grew his neck. When Val Kilmer grew his head, he grew his neck.
I haven't seen him for a while. Is it?
He got swole.
He's huge.
Yeah,
he
he
did.
looked like he started bodybuilding.
I think I think he did start lifting, but I don't.
It's a weird thing for a musician, right? Is you, some guy jumped on stage and you hip tossed him and then took his back and continued the song.
He was like he's ready for it.
on there. I mean, you obviously you didn't hurt him, so you sensed that he was friendly.
Yeah, it was my stage.
Like if you're up there, you get choked.
It's so beautiful. You gave him like the arm around him where you thought you were like going to do a like a.
You just took his back.
It's so beautiful.
But the beautiful thing is, the guy didn't even try to fight that hard. Look, he throws his arms up in the air. He's like, woo!
He was just thinking dick against his butt.
His butt?
Probably. Yeah, he's like, oh, this is the best.
I'm gonna have a baby.
I'm gonna have a
Painted blue.
It's a pretty rare situation where you got the perfect retarded fan.
I'm gonna have a baby.
Doesn't
in
fight
painted
hard.
blue.
And how cool was it for him though? You were singing while you had his back.
Well, I think that's a we actually had a guest singer come out on that song right during that. So like, not only did the kid like have to deal with, me doing that, but he had to sit through this other singer doing a thing too.
So you just held him, kept the back control.
I wrapped the cord around his neck and continued singing. So when because I had slack, so every time he would go and chug the thing,
That's so beautiful.
Did he fucking look at me? Was he talking to you while this was going on? Was he saying anything? No mutters.
I gave him a back rub too because I felt bad. Didn't, knock you out. I would.
You would just do it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you're doing. I have no
Yeah,
idea.
you could be crazy. You never know. That guy that killed Dimebag.
Dimebag Daryl.
Yeah.
I did it once when I was
I got
younger.
2 words for you, John Lennon.
Yeah.
I did it once when I was younger at a Ween concert, and now I look back at it, I cringe just thinking the fact that I fucking got up on stage and they actually had to stop their they were in between songs.
Did you really?
Yeah, and then I jumped back into the audience, but I was like, it just makes me sick to my. I mean, I was like 18, know, at a Ween concert, but I can't imagine doing that now.
If it makes you feel any better, if I was right next to you, I'd be like, "Do it, pussy. Do
I
it.
know, that's
Get
what
up there. Do
Go,
it,
man.
We're both
Ruin the
18.
show. Go.
Ruin the show. Do it.
Fuck, they'll be fine, man. This happens all the time.
Well,
Just get up there.
It's like some bands like it. Like I remember Mighty Boss Stones.
Force the nip slip. Force the nip slip.
Mighty Boss Stones used to like almost welcome people on the stage, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly. So I think that's why I did. I was like, oh,
Right.
all bands are like this.
Yeah,
It's
it's a social event.
yeah,
I'm
Yeah,
not trying
they
to
were
do
pretty
anything
crazy.
up here. I'm not trying to like convey a thing.
right.
Jump on up.
Do you ever recognize how unique this is for someone who has achieved your position as a musician and has had so much cultural influence?
If you're looking at the part of my life that came before the music, I was part of the military. I was accepted to West Point to become an officer, and I chose not to go to go into the arts. So I was in some way already doing these kind of things. In a way, you got your military and you got your politicians. I was kind of part of that structure to begin with. Organized sports, military,
Ballet.
Shut up, Brian. So you've
pocket pool.
You've managed to really be your own unique individual. You've really managed to not find a pattern to fall into, but rather fall into the pattern that you felt personally drawn to.
Yeah, kind of like, again, going back to just following your intuition about what your decision. I mean, when you're standing there and you're having to make a decision, like when you receive that appointment in your hand going, okay, I'm going to be an officer. I'm going to go to West Point, and when I get out, I can see my future all the way to the end. Classmates of mine are now like, colonels in charge of several divisions in Afghanistan. So that would be what I would be doing right now. I mean, I can't say that for sure because I'm not nearly the dedicated soldier that those guys are, and that kind of vision. But as far as that part of that corporation, that part of that company, that's my path was laid out in front of me. So to see that and go, I can be a part of that whole thing, or I can follow this feeling in my stomach right now and go, I think I'm going to go to art school. So to actually make that decision and have all your friends and your family kind of go, what the fuck did you just do?
Yeah.
And that was long before you'd ever heard about me. And to know that that's what I was supposed to do, and to follow that against anybody else's advice, you know, that's a strong statement when it comes to following one's intuition.
Do you realize how inspirational that is? I mean, to a guy like me, or especially to guys coming up that may, you know, or they have a vision, they have an idea, and they see someone like you that they admire that has done that and really has so obviously carved out the life that they really wanted to live based on their intuition, based on their idea, which so few people ever actually do. You recognize that influence? I mean, because that's a huge thing for folks.
Yeah, it's always going to come down to what you are going to decide for you. It's kind of hard to. I had my old back in Michigan. I went to a church. I did go to a church. I might disappoint you, but I actually had
I went to a few.
A minister, a pastor, I should say. And the only reason I went to this place is because this guy made sense. Super low key, awesome speaker. He told stories. He had no judgment. I mean, you know, there's one point I was having problems, and you know, people thought that I was way too into Kiss and Alice Cooper, and they wanted me to talk to the preacher. And he called me in the office, and I kind of went into his place, and he shut the door, and he goes, "So tell me all about this band." I was like, you know, he's freely, and he has a smoke, and he just listened to all of that stuff.
Then he started kissing you.
No. Really? Can you say that with your pants off? No, he didn't. No, nothing like that. Like, and it was nothing. He just like was just into like. So what is it about this that like resonates with you? What is it? What is it that like inspires you about it? And I was like telling him these stories. He goes, "I'm a storyteller. I like that you like to tell stories. You should tell more stories." And I started writing poetry. I started writing stuff based on that conversation with him.
That's cool.
So, you know, out of that, and they used to tell a story that I thought was very pertinent. You know, you go off to camp, and you'd have some experience there, and you come back, and whatever you experienced out there, whatever camp that was you went to metaphorically, and you come back to the general populace, he would always tell the story about Moses coming down from the mountain and having his mountaintop experience, and then coming back down to the rat race to where he's a changed person. There's something different in his eyes, and he's watching everything that's happening, and there's no possible way he will ever be able to like explain to the people that he sees daily what the fuck happened, because it didn't happen to them. It happened to him. He saw it, and he just has to kind of, you know, live his life on that and not be disappointed in his friends and family and his community, because they didn't see it. So it's not their fault. They didn't experience that. But he has to kind of understand that everybody has to go through that themselves if they're going to go through it. Like, you know, the thing we talked about with kids going into the military and having that that moment where you're on your own. You know, you stick your hand in the jar with the ants, and you know that kind of thing you're talking about. That becoming an adult. He would tell that story, and it was a very important lesson for me to go, okay, you're on your own with these decisions. You kind of have to have these things, and not everybody's going to get it. So don't worry about everybody getting it. Just as long as you get it.
It's so hard for folks, though, to have that sort of confidence to branch out independently on their own with that vision, that idea.
It's terrifying. It's terrifying.
But that's the only way you really
you
find your own path. Yeah, that's so hard for people to accept, and so hard. It's not what people want to hear. They you know, it seems it's so terrifying to be completely independent of all the people around you giving you other advice, but it's the only way to do it.
And if you see, you know, that's how things happen. You see something that's not being done, or you see something that's you want to have happen. If it's not happening, go do it.
You got to be honest with yourself as well too. You have to actually know what you really truly want.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people will talk themselves into things that they want because there's maybe security in it, or you know, they could see a connect the dots future.
Mm-hmm.
But Dude, thank you very much for coming on this podcast. It's been
Problem.
amazing. It's you got an awesome story, man. You're a bad motherfucker, and you've done a lot of cool shit. And it was really fun having you on.
Thank you.
We enjoyed it.
Thank you for having
And
me.
I'm really sorry about Brian.
What's wrong with him?
I'm sorry I was nervous around him.
It's okay. It's natural.
I will wear pants next time if you ever come back.
That was kind of awkward, but I got over it.
Thank you to James. Thank you.
See you tonight.
Jihad to you all.